Nigeria's anti-corruption landscape has entered another defining moment following the detention of a former Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offices or Officers Commission. The investigation reportedly involves allegations linked to 432 billion naira in public funds. Cases involving former senior officials often carry consequences beyond the courtroom. They shape public perception, they influence trust in institutions, and they definitely raise difficult questions about whether accountability is being pursued consistently or selectively in Nigeria.
So, joining us now, we have human rights lawyer Festus Ogun, who's joining us to talk about this very interesting conversation here. Festus, thank you very much for coming in this morning. It's been a very interesting one, but here we're talking something outside of the elections because it's big on the table of most discussion. It's big on most discussion tables. So, as a legal expert, I wanted to know from you, from a legal standpoint, what does detention at this stage of an investigation actually signify, and what must the anti-corruption agency prove to justify its actions?
Well, to start with, I would say that investigation is part of every procedure in which a person suspected to have committed a crime is eventually prosecuted. But again, we must be courageous enough to interrogate whether the arrest, detention, and investigation of El-Rufai is a sincere one. That, for me, is what matters the most. Is it a case of wish hunt, or is it a case of a government that is passionate about fighting corruption in our country? If you ask me, I would say that it appears to me that this is a fight against opposition. And my reason is because Nasir El-Rufai has left office since 2023. Mm-hmm. And since he left office, there have been this allegation hovering around the administration that he led in Kaduna for 8 years. Mm-hmm. Despite all of that, the president of our country nominated him to be a minister, although he was later rejected. All the while, for 2-3 years, we didn't see any move by the Nigerian authorities, by the Nigerian anti-corruption agencies, to invite him or to investigate him or to prosecute him. So it now bothers my mind why we now have this kind of arrest at a time that he had moved to the opposition and is vocal about his opposition to the government in power. So again, if he was not arrested in 2023, he was not arrested in 2024, arrested in 2025, why then are we seeing a gale of arrest and detention? He left the EFCC custody. Moving out of the EFCC custody, he has moved to the ICPC custody. If the issues borders on corruption while he was in office, I believe these issues can be singularly handled by the EFCC, or perhaps singularly handled by the ICPC. So when you arrested him today, you detained him for some days, you got him, he got himself out on bail, okay, and thereafter he's moving to the the ICPC custody. And we have also read in the news that by next week he will be charged to court for alleged, cyber offenses.
All right, Mr. Ogun.
So just a second. It appears to me that
just a second, Mr. Ogun.
This is not a sincere attempt by the Nigerian authorities to fight corruption. Okay. Because he was part of them, and at the time he was with them, he was even nominated to be a minister. Mm-hmm. Yes. All the while he was not prosecuted, despite the fact that these allegations have been there since 2023, when it was investigated by the House of Assembly in Kaduna.
Mr. Kunnu, just a second. I want to bring in our other guest, whom wasn't here when we introduced you. Mr. Adeniyi Kunnu is joining us. He's a public affairs analyst Adeniyi Kunnu is joining us. Thank you very much, Mr. Kunnu, for joining us. I hear you're about to board a flight, so I'm not going to waste too much time. I wanted to know what your thoughts are here. We have EFCC, ICPC, and also we have the DSS. Let's not to forget the claim about the security breach. Let's put it so. But let's focus on this 430 billion naira case here against him. Let's focus on that and the timing of it, as Mr. Ogun has just referred to. What do you think is behind this timing and the avalanche of authorities that seem to be after him?
Thank you very much for having me. There's a saying where I come from, that if you do not have cracks on the wall, you do not have lizard come through the walls to do whatever it is they want to do. The crack on the wall had been obvious before this time, and the cracks became wider when El-Rufai went on February 13 on a particular broadcast and talked about the fact that they are listening to the conversations. But let me tell you this is not the first time that El-Rufai has revealed such a thing that happens. Do not forget that when he was governor, we had Babagana Mungono as the National Security Advisor. At the height of the attacks in Kaduna and some other parts of the northwestern part of Nigeria, El-Rufai had said that they listened to the conversations of Boko Haram when he was with the APC and as a governor. I remember the National Security Advisor didn't feel comfortable and actually expressed his dissatisfaction over what El-Rufai said. But then the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, God bless his soul, did not see anything wrong in revealing to us that they were listening to the conversations of Boko Haram. It tells you that listening to the conversations of those they tout their enemy is not something new. That is one part of the conversation, and it's important to not push that aside if we are talking about the money, which is over 400 billion that we're talking about here. Now, El-Rufai left office, and particularly after the ministerial issue did not go as was, which again was as a result of the recklessness of the former governor of Kaduna State, where he spoke in Hausa about certain things that I wouldn't like to repeat here on television. He said it at a gathering. Obviously, I think that was in Abuja or Kaduna. So let's look at things distinctly. We could call this some kind of persecution, but again, I'm careful to choose the register persecution here because you persecute people who have done nothing wrong. But in the instance of something that we should find out how it went, a governor who left office has exhausted immunity soon after he or she runs off his or her tenure. So we may say that this time is a time where we do not feel that the APC government led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should be doing what they are doing. But the reality again is, shouldn't somebody who hadn't accounted for the money that belonged to the people of Kaduna be investigated? Yes, we can bring in another context, which is the context of the fact that he's no more with the APC, but were there monies allocated to the people of Kaduna that should have been properly accounted for? That is yes. Are the people of Kaduna deserving of knowing how the money that should have been spent of them, are they deserving of the knowledge of how the money went? That is another yes. So I'd like us to understand that we should know what is primary here and what is secondary when we talk about the persecution. And I'm also delighted anyway, if anyone wants to ask me, that a house that is divided against itself perhaps is beginning to lose its foothold. So pretty much so, right now, El-Rufai has been investigated, yes. But I need to also put in this convo for us to understand. There's a perspective here. El-Rufai said something that lots of people have forgotten. That is how this government is snitching and listening to the conversations of political enemies. So it's obvious that whatever El-Rufai said, somebody did and gave them the information, because we shouldn't forget, El-Rufai told us, and I quote, well, we listened to them, we listened to their conversation, somebody to tap them and gave us the conversation. Is that not how they also listen to? That means if you are considered a political enemy to this administration, they've tapped your phone. For instance, let me tell you, a couple of years ago when Muhammadu Buhari was in power, on a number of occasions, my phone was tapped because I was very vehement regarding certain things, especially the insecurity issues. I received messages from the Nigerian Republic, and I trailed the number to some of these supposed Boko Haramists 3 times. I have the number of record, and I knew that they were listening. At some point, they tapped my phone to the point where, if I'm talking, it will just go off. And there was a time I said, I know everybody doing this. I looked at my phone, I said, I will expose you people. That's when they stopped. So when somebody is considered a high security risk in any country of the world or supposed enemy of the state, they begin to listen to your conversation. And why they do that often is to see if, for instance, you are working with certain enemies or some collaborators that could endanger either them or the state. So for El-Rufai, the investigation is in order as a citizen that doesn't have immunity. The issue of the Cybercrime Act is another conversation altogether. And I think that it's a lesson for El-Rufai that if you are a political strategist, there are certain things you don't open your mouth to say. If you're doing it not to endanger the country, but you're doing it to gather information to help Nigeria, not just your political party. So El-Rufai needs a very good lawyer to defend him, because don't forget again that the President Muhammadu Buhari administration, that this same El-Rufai was part of, were the ones that reviewed the Cybercrime Act, wanting to use it against those that were using social media to expose the what? The negativities of government, especially after the what? EndSARS protest. So you can see that the hole they dug, thinking the hole was going to be entered by them, is the same hole that they are entering. Isn't it a beautiful narrative here this morning? So I'm simply saying, we're going to watch the pages get flipped. We're going to watch the chapters unfold.
Mr. Kunnu,
and we definitely need to see these things. Yeah, I'm listening, please.
Mr. Kunnu, we don't want to let you go without asking you this other question here, because we know that you are also in a hurry. El-Rufai seems to be in good company, even if there is no conviction yet. Oji Uzo Kalu, Dimipre Alamiseya, Joshua Dariye, who else now? There's a number of them. And it brings a question to mind when it comes to elite accountability in Nigeria, especially for governors who had access to monies and projects and all of that. We see a situation where we have Alison Madueke outside of the country. Here we have our anti-graft agencies trying to bring us accountability. But I'm wondering, how can these anti-graft agencies actually balance out operational secrecy and accountability, public accountability? Are they managing it well? Also taking note what our other guest has just noted about the timing. Real quick, if you don't mind, because we only have about 2 minutes, what's your take on this?
Well, thank you one more time. The anti-graft agencies need about 20 years to work for Nigeria and not to work for those who appoint them. And that's why I have recommended, and I'll recommend again, that these anti-graft agencies, quite frankly, need none other than independent bodies to appoint their chairpersons into office. If you have the president always appoint people who are anti-corruption agency directors or operatives, it's always going to be difficult to have people who work selflessly, because we are still evolving in our democratic practices. You could say, yes, we've been independent since 1960. Let's look at all of the interregnum we've had up until 1999, about 26 years ago, or 27 when we returned to democracy. So for the anti-graft agencies to work for the people of the country and work for the sovereignty of Nigeria, then we need nothing but about 20 more years. But before that, the National Assembly can actually initiate certain bills that will enable the person appointing the helmsperson of these agencies, not by the president, but of course by a group of bodies. Perhaps you want to talk about how they appoint the Supreme Court justices and all of that, but we have to review that. But ultimately also, non-governmental organizations have to push for reforms. We should not wait to see non-governmental organizations only when elections are near and they're expecting grants from international bodies. All year round, there are issues that non-governmental organizations can actually explore to help us actually get to the point where we have healthy democratic practice. And the agencies, the anti-corruption agencies, are one of those institutions for us to move forward. Thank you very much. I appreciate the privilege.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kunnu. Full autonomy is what you're asking for there. Mr. Ogun, I want to say thank you as well. We didn't forget you, but we just had to get these questions in there appropriately. But we also want to say thank you very much for also having this conversation here with us.